Picture this, a Detroit warehouse drenched in rain, its steel heart groaning under the weight of a storm, until a single cry cuts through the chaos, sharp as a blade, heavy as a fall. Great Lakes distribution isn't just a job, it's a crucible, a ticking bomb ready to blow. Enter Caleb Dixon, a grinder with steel in his spine, stepping into a fight he didn't pick but damn well might win. His foe? Jack Russo, a smug bastard whose sneer could crack concrete, lording over the floor with spite and a fist of greed. And waiting in the shadows, a stranger with a secret that could flip the whole damn game of clock races toward zero. A sister's dream hangs by a thread. A mysterious call pierces the night. What happens when one move pits a nobody against a king? When the underdog swings back with everything he's got? This is one move to win it all. A saga of grit, sacrifice, and a reckoning that'll leave you roaring or floored. Buckle up because the storm's breaking and the payoff's gonna hit hard. One move to win it all. Smash that like if you're riding with Caleb. Hit subscribe, ring the bell. This twist'll knock you out. What's your one move to break free? Let's fire this up, now! The screen's black, swallowed by the roar of rain slamming a steel roof. A war drum pounding without mercy, relentless, wild. A loudspeaker cuts through, voice warped and harsh. Dixon, meeting room. Now, don't screw this up. Light flickers in, weak and yellow, spilling over Great Lakes Distribution's warehouse in Detroit. The camera races across the chaos. Rain lashes through jagged gaps in the loading doors, soaking the concrete, while workers, hunched, faceless, shove forklifts through aisles of towering cardboard stacks. Their breath puffs white in the frigid air, curling like ghosts against the din of clanging metal and grinding engines. A wall clock looms, industrial, battered, its second hand slicing toward 9:45 a.m. Each tick a guillotine dropping closer to Caleb Dixon's neck. He stands dead center, 32, black, eyes sharp as switchblades glinting under the flickering fluorescence. His navy work jacket's threadbare, C. Dixon, stitched in fading white across the chest, a clipboard gripped in hands roughened by a decade of grind. He's no cog in this machine, shoulders squared, jaw tight, a coiled spring ready to snap. The camera zooms tight, raindrops cling to his thick brows. His gaze burns with a fire that's been smoldering too long, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Not a smile, but a dare to the world to step up or step off. His voiceover crashes in, raw and urgent. Today's my shot, or my coffin. 10 years bleeding in this pit, and it's now or never. For me, for her. Flashback, Mia, 19, sits at their cramped kitchen table, textbooks splayed under a dying bulb. Her hoodie's frayed, eyes heavy from late shifts, but they spark when she looks up. "You'll make it, Cal," she says, voice soft but fierce, a kid betting her whole damn future on her big brother. Cut back, Caleb's in the warehouse, flipping the clipboard with a surgeon's precision, scanning pallet numbers. Every move calculated, every second owned. 3 years ago, he'd stayed up nights, fueled by black coffee and desperation, sketching a sorting system on napkins. 15% cost savings for Great Lakes, a ticket out. He'd handed it to Jack Russo, shift manager, with a fool's hope. Jack smirked, tossed it in the trash right there. "Stick to lifting, Dixon. Leave the big stuff to me." Caleb's fists balled, but he swallowed it, kept the fire locked tight, waiting for today. Now's his chance. HQ suits flew in to pick a new manager, not some brown noser, but a grinder who knows the beast inside out. Caleb's name hit the list, not from Jack, who choked before praising him, but an old report some exec dredged up. 10 a.m., upstairs meeting room, one handshake, one nod, and he's free. Free from 12-hour shifts that leave his spine screaming, free from Michigan winters that claw through his jacket, free from nights counting pennies to keep Mia's dreams alive. She's at the gas station now, pouring coffee for truckers, her engineering textbooks gathering dust, his kid's sister, his reason, his fight. 9:46 a.m. He huffs a breath, the cold stabbing his lungs like shards of glass, and adjusts his collar, the damp fabric sticking to his neck. "You've got this, man," he mutters, boots aimed for the double doors to the elevator, each step a drumbeat of resolve. The warehouse hums around him. Forklifts groan. Workers shout over the rain. A symphony of sweat and steel he's mastered. He's halfway there when a sound slices through. A whimper, faint, fragile, piercing the chaos like a needle through cloth. He stops dead, head swiveling, eyes narrowing. Near the customer pickup, under a floodlight's harsh glow, a figure's down, 70-ish, white, silver hair plastered by rain, crumpled in a thin soaked coat. Her hand clutches her hip, trembling. The other grips a soggy receipt like it's her last anchor. Her blue eyes flicker, fading fast, a plea trapped in their depths. Workers shuffle past, one with a forklift, another sipping coffee, heads down, blind as hell. 9:48 a.m. Caleb's grip tightens, the clipboard creaking under his fingers. 2 minutes to the top. One call could bury me, bury Mia. Her voice echoes, "You'll make it, Cal." And the old woman's croaks, "Help!" Weak, desperate, hooking his gut like a fish on a line. He stands frozen, rain dripping from his hood, the clock's tick pounding in his skull. His mind races. 10 years of proving himself, one shot to climb out, all teetering on this razor's edge. Then, screw it. He tosses the clipboard onto a crate, the thud lost in the storm, and strides over, boots splashing, rain stinging his face. His voiceover growls, fierce and unbowed. "One shot, and I'm betting it all. Right here, right now. No looking back." Rain's a savage, clawing at the warehouse floor as Caleb drops to his knees beside the old woman. It's a deluge out there, hammering the concrete, turning puddles into rivers that soak his jeans through. Her silver hair's a wet tangle, plastered to her skull, her pale skin ghostly under the floodlight's glare. 70-ish, frail as hell, but fighting. Her hands locked on her hip, fingers trembling like they're all that's holding her together, while the other clutches a soggy receipt, ink bleeding into the water. Her coat's a joke. Thin, cheap, no match for this storm. "Help!" she rasps again, voice cracking, blue eyes dimming like a light about to flicker out. Caleb's hands move fast, rough fingers finding her wrist, pulse weak but there, his touch steady despite the chaos. He's no medic, but he's seen enough busted-up guys on the floor to know she's in bad shape. Hips gone, no blood, but she's slipping. "Stay with me, ma'am," he says, voice low, cutting through the rain and the growl of machinery like a lifeline. He yanks his phone from his pocket, rain streaking the cracked screen, and punches 911. "Great Lakes Distribution, customer pickup, old lady down, bad fall, hips shot. Move your asses." He doesn't wait for a reply, shoving it back, and snaps his head to a gawker nearby, a kid with a dumbstruck stare. "Blanket, break room, now!" His tone's a whip, sharp and cold, sending the guy bolting like he's been zapped. 9:50 a.m. The clock's a ghost in his head, haunting him. 2 minutes late for the suits upstairs, his one shot bleeding out with every drop of rain. Sirens wail in the distance, faint but growing, a lifeline too slow to save his career. He shrugs off his jacket, navy soaked, his name stitched in fading thread, and drapes it over her shoulders, the fabric swallowing her frail frame. "Hang on, help's close," he says, locking her gaze, his brown eyes steady against her fading blue. She nods, a shiver of a movement, lips quivering as she mouths a silent thanks, her hand brushing his sleeve like a plea to stay. Jack Russo storms through the rain, boots splashing like he's kicking the world down, face red as a furnace under his stupid cap. "What the hell, Dixon?" he snarls, voice a jagged edge over the storm. "You're tanking your shot for this old bag?" Caleb stands slow, rain streaming off his chin, meeting Jack's glare with a wall of steel. "She's hurt, Jack. That's not optional." Jack's laugh is a gut punch, short and vicious. "You're a nobody now, Dixon. Enjoy the gutter. Meeting's over and you're done. Clear your damn locker." Caleb's stomach drops, a cold stone sinking fast, but his face stays hard, unyielding. "Had to be done," he says, voice flat, a rock against Jack's venom. The sirens scream closer, red lights flashing through the gray haze as the ambulance screeches in. Medics swarm, quick, sharp, wrapping her in a thermal blanket. "Family?" A wiry guy with a buzz cut asks, glancing up. Caleb shakes his head, rain dripping into his eyes. "No, just couldn't leave her out here alone." They lift her onto the stretcher, her frame small against the white, and her eyes find his one last time. "Thank you," she whispers, voice a thread breaking, heavy with something he can't name. He nods, lips tight, a flicker of warmth cutting through the cold as the door slams shut. Jack's still there, smirking like a hyena, and tosses Caleb's badge into a puddle, plastic splashing, a cheap final stab. "Nobody, huh? Crawl back to your hole," he spits, strutting off, his laugh a knife twisting in Caleb's ribs. Caleb bends, picks it up, wipes it on his sleeve, slow, deliberate, his silence a furnace of rage and resolve. The warehouse looms behind him, a hulking beast that's eaten his decade, its lights blurring in the rain as he turns away. Bus ride home, wet, cold, the seats sticky with despair. He stares out the fogged window, the city a smear of gray and yellow. Workers from the shift pass in his mind. Guys he's hauled with, bled with, now just shadows. Jack's words claw at him. Nobody now, but her face, her thanks anchor him. His voiceover cuts in, jagged and raw. 10 years and I'd bleed it all again for her. One stranger who mattered more than me, more than everything I lost. The rain keeps falling, relentless, as the bus rumbles into the night. Rain stalks Caleb home, a cold, cruel hunter, soaking him through as he shoves into his apartment. A dump of peeling walls, water stains creeping like rot, and a single bulb flickering overhead, like it's begging to die. The door groans shut behind him, hinges whining, locking him into this cage of despair. The fridge growls low in the corner, a tired beast that's hummed through too many broke nights, and a cheap clock ticks on the wall. 11:03 p.m., each second a hammer pounding his skull. Mia's gone, outpouring coffee for truckers at the gas station, her textbook stacked untouched on the counter. Engineering dreams he's let gather dust, her future slipping through his fingers like sand. He drops his bag on the sagging couch, springs creaking like a bad joke, and collapses at the kitchen table, the scarred wood a map of his failures. Coffee rings, knife gouges, years of scraping by. His jacket drips onto the floor, a puddle forming, and he doesn't care. The laptop's open, screen glowing weak, spitting out job listings he's scrolled 100 times. Loader, $14 an hour, no insurance. Packer, stand 10 hours, no breaks. Garbage gigs that won't cover rent. Won't touch Mia's tuition. Won't fix the hole Jack's firing ripped through his life. He scrolls, eyes burning, each click a stab. 10 years at Great Lakes, torched in one move. He slams the lid shut, the bang a gunshot in the silence, and buries his face in his hands. Damp, calloused, useless now. His voiceover growls, raw and heavy. 10 years gone, and I've got squat but a sister who deserves the world. This is rock bottom, cold, dark, and it's eating me alive. He thinks of Mia, her hunched shoulders after a shift, her quiet, "Thanks, Cal," when he slipped her cash for gas, her textbook sitting there like a promise he's broken. He'd fought for her, bled for her, and now he's got nothing. Fired, finished, a nobody like Jack said. The fridge hums louder, the clock ticks harder, the walls press in, and he feels it. A weight crushing his chest, a scream he can't let out. Then, phone buzzes, a harsh rattle on the table, 11:04 p.m. Unknown number flashing. He glares at it, half tempted to let it rot, but some gut itch makes him grab it. He swipes, voice flat. "Yeah, who's this?" A woman's voice cuts through, cold and commanding. "Caleb Dixon?" He stiffens, grip tightening, the damp phone slick in his palm. "That's me. Who are you?" "Abigail Voss, Voss Innovations," she says, no waver, like she owns the night. 8 a.m. tomorrow. My driver's coming. Be there, Dixon. No excuses." His brain stalls, then spins. Voss Innovations, the name stamped on trucks he's loaded 1,000 times. A giant he's never touched. He leans forward, elbow digging into the table, wood creaking under him. Hold up. You've got the wrong guy. I'm a warehouse stiff. Ex-stiff, actually. Just got canned. Her reply's a blade. You're my guy. 8 sharp. Click. Line's dead. Silence roaring back. He pulls the phone away, staring at the blank screen like it's a bomb, heart thumping against his ribs. Steady, hard, alive. Scam. Luck? He stands, pacing the cramped space, boots streaking wet trails on the chipped linoleum. The walls feel tighter, the clock louder, but something's shifting. A spark, faint but scorching, cutting through the black. He stops at the window, peering into the night. Rain hammers the glass, streetlights bleeding into yellow smears across the lot. Mia's face hits him, her tired grin, her hope he's been killing himself to keep alive. If this is real, if it's even a crack in the door, he's damn well kicking it open. He grabs a beer from the fridge, pops it with a hiss, and takes a long swig, the cold jolting him awake, sharp against his throat. His voiceover bites, edged with grit. Lost it all today. Job, shot, soul. But this call might be a rope up or a noose around my neck. Either way, I'm grabbing it with both hands. The camera lingers, his silhouette tense, unbowed, beer glinting in the dim, then fades as the rain keeps pounding, a rhythm he's ready to break. 7 a.m. hits like a brick. Caleb's up, the couch creaking under him, springs digging into his back from a night of restless half-sleep. Rain still tapping the window, a gray dawn seeping through the blinds, casting shadows across his face. His eyes are gritty, head thick from replaying Abigail's voice. Be there, Dixon. But he's moving. No suit in his closet, no polished shoes, just a frayed black button-down, a coffee stain stubborn on the cuff, and jeans worn thin at the knees. He throws them on, the fabric stiff against his skin, and checks the mirror. Bags under his eyes, jaw set. A guy who's taken hits but isn't staying down. His damp work jacket goes over it, still smells like rain and warehouse grime, his armor for whatever's coming. He steps out at 8 sharp, boots thudding on the creaky stairs, the air cold and wet against his face. An Escalade rolls up, black, sleek, a shark against the cracked pavement of his rundown lot. The driver's tall, suit crisp, face blank as stone, opening the back door without a word. Caleb pauses, hands shoved in his pockets, sizing it up. Too clean, too rich for his world. This for real? He asks, voice dry, rain dripping from his hood. The driver nods, curt, no nonsense. All right, let's see what's up, Caleb mutters, sliding in. The leather's soft. The air smells like money, a far cry from the sticky bus seats he rode last night. The ride's silent, just the hum of the engine and rain tapping the tinted windows as Detroit shifts outside. Crumbling brick and graffiti bleeding into glass towers and polished storefronts. A city split between the have-nots and the haves. Caleb's stomach knots. He's a fish out of water here, a grunt in a king's ride. But he sits tall, shoulders squared, watching every turn like he's mapping a way out. The Escalade dips into a garage beneath a skyscraper, Voss Innovations glowing in cold silver on the sign. His pulse kicks up. This isn't a game anymore. It's real and it's big. The driver leads him through a lobby, marble floors, sharp angles, a receptionist who doesn't blink, into an elevator that shoots to the top floor. Doors slide open, and Caleb steps into a conference room that screams power. A long oak table polished to a shine, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Detroit skyline like a warlord's view, air so clean it stings his lungs. At the far end stands a woman, 50-ish, silver hair pulled tight in a bun, eyes like a hawk's, cutting through him without mercy, Abigail Voss. Beside her, upright and steady, is the old woman from yesterday. White hair, neat now, blue eyes sharp, leaning on a cane, no trace of the fragile wreck he'd pulled off the concrete. Caleb stops cold, boots scuffing the hardwood, rain still beating on his jacket. You, he says, pointing at her, voice flat but loaded with suspicion. Abigail steps forward, hands clasped behind her back like a general. Her. And me. Take a seat, Dixon. We've got a lot to cover. He doesn't move right away, eyes flicking between them, sizing up the play, but he pulls out a chair and drops into it, leaning back like he's daring them to impress him. All right, spill it. What's the game here? 'Cause I'm not in the mood for tea and sympathy. Abigail sits across, elbows hitting the table, her stare unrelenting. No sympathy, just business. That's Margaret Voss, my aunt. Her fall yesterday? Not an accident, it was a trap. Caleb's brow shoots up, but he keeps his mouth shut, letting her roll. We've been testing Great Lakes for 6 months, she says, voice clipped, precise as a scalpel. 6 falls, 6 setups. Margaret's been our eyes on the floor. We wanted to see who'd break, who'd care, who'd just keep walking. You're the only one who stopped. Margaret cuts in, her voice softer but firm, cane resting against the table. I've hit that concrete 6 times, Caleb. Different shifts, different crews, 6 chances, and they all walked over me like I was nothing. You didn't. You moved fast, took charge, kept your head. Caleb leans forward, elbows digging into the oak, voice low and tight. So you staged it, screwed me over for some test? Abigail shakes her head, quick. Not you, the system. Jack Russo buried every report, every fall, every screw-up to keep his numbers clean. Yesterday was his last mess. He's gone. Fired last night. Caleb's lips twitch, a dark smirk breaking through. Jack's smug face twisting in his mind, finally getting what's coming. About damn time, he mutters, but his eyes stay hard, wary. Still doesn't tell me why I'm here. What's your angle? Abigail slides a folder across the table. Thick, crisp, the Voss logo gleaming in gold. Open it, she says, voice a quiet command. He flips it, eyes scanning fast. Midwest operations lead, 20 sites, 5,000 employees, 6-figure salary, full benefits, family tuition package. His breath stops, eyes widen, a heartbeat of pure shock, then lock back on her. You're kidding me. I'm no suit. Why the hell me? We're bleeding out there, Abigail snaps, leaning in, her tone hard as iron. 6 months of losses, bad managers, worse systems. I need the floor in you, Dixon. Fix it or we're done. Margaret nods, her cane tapping once. You own that moment, Caleb. Didn't just help me, you ran it like it was yours. He stares at the folder, mind racing. Jack's fall, his rise, a trap-turned jackpot. His voiceover bites, taut with adrenaline. Trap sprung, and I walked in blind. Now they're handing me the keys, or a knife in the back. Time to pick. The boardroom's a pressure cooker, air thick with stakes Caleb can barely grasp. The contract glares up at him. Midwest operations lead, 20 sites, 6 figures, Mia's tuition covered, black ink on white paper, a lifeline or a noose. He can't tell yet. Abigail Voss stands at the table's head, silver hair glinting under the lights, her hawkish eyes drilling into him like she's already won. Margaret Voss leans on her cane beside her, white hair neat, blue eyes locked on him, steady, warm, but piercing, the old woman he saved now, a judge in this game. The Detroit skyline sprawls outside the massive windows, a jagged sprawl of steel and grit, a city daring him to claim it. Caleb's hand hovers over the pen, trembling, just once, a flicker of doubt, then steadies, his rough fingers curling around it. The metal's cold, solid, grounding him as his pulse hammers in his ears, loud as the rain yesterday. He looks up, locking eyes with Abigail, his voice a blade slicing the tension. Cut the crap, let's get this straight. This isn't a gift, right? Not some pity play 'cause I pulled your aunt off the floor? Abigail's lips twitch, a shadow of a smirk cracking her steel facade. No pity, Dixon. This is a war. 20 sites, half of them bleeding red, managers who can't find their asses with a map. I need someone with guts, someone who's been in the muck and won't flinch when it gets ugly. You proved that yesterday. Jack didn't. Her words land hard, a challenge wrapped in truth, and Caleb feels it. His decade of grind, suddenly a weapon, not a chain. He shifts his gaze to Margaret, her cane planted like a flag, her presence quiet but heavy. "And you?" he asks, leaning forward, elbows digging into the oak, voice low and probing. "You're good throwing your chips on me? A guy with no fancy title, no corner office cred, just a fired grunt who's got nothing left?" She leans in, cane tapping once on the hardwood, her smile sharp and fierce. "You're gold, Caleb. Pure damn gold. I'd bet on you every damn time. You saw me, really saw me, when no one else gave a damn. That's not just guts. That's power." Her words burn, sinking deep. Yesterday's rain flashes back, her frail hand gripping his sleeve, her eyes locking his as he knelt in the storm. He'd made that call, dropped his shot, his life, because it was right. Not for a payout, and now it's here, bigger than he'd ever dared imagine. He rolls the pen between his fingers, the weight steadying his racing mind, and mutters half to himself, "You're handing me a damn kingdom." He looks between them, Abigail's steel, Margaret's fire, and feels the shift, the ground moving under him. "What's the catch?" he asks, voice steady now, eyes narrowing as he searches their faces for the trap. Abigail leans back, arms crossing, her tone hard as iron. "No catch, just blood and sweat. 20 warehouses, half broken, bad systems, worse people. You fix it, you run it, you make it work. That's the war. Your war now." Caleb's mind spins. Mia's tired sneakers trudging to work. Jack's smug laugh as he tossed that badge. A decade of being invisible, all crashing against this shot to rewrite it all. He thinks of her, Mia, hunched over textbooks, her quiet, "You'll make it, Cal," echoing from years back. Her hope he's carried like a torch through every brutal shift. This isn't just a job. It's her future, his redemption, a chance to break the game wide open and build something that lasts. He looks at Abigail, then Margaret, and a slow, fierce grin spreads across his face, cutting through the doubt like a blade. "You just bet on the wrong guy to back down," he says, voice steady as stone, a vow carved in the air. He signs Caleb Dixon, two bold slashes of ink tearing across the page, the pen cracking down on the table like a gunshot sealing his fate. Abigail stands, hand extended, her grip firm as he shakes it, his calluses meeting her smooth palm, a clash of worlds locking into place. "Welcome aboard, Director Dixon," she says, a glint of respect in her eyes. Margaret steps closer, patting his arm with a strength that belies her frame. "You're gonna shake this place to its bones, son. I can't wait to see it." Caleb rises, the chair scraping back, his boots firm on the hardwood. He feels it. Taller than the warehouse. Taller than the years that tried to crush him. The skyline outside his now. A kingdom he's claimed with one move. His voiceover roars, fierce and unbowed. "Yesterday I lost the fight. Everything I'd built, gone in the rain. Today I won the war, and I'm just getting started." The camera holds, his silhouette strong against the glass. Raindrops still clinging to his jacket. Then fades to black, the echo of his resolve ringing out. 3 months later, the Detroit skyline cuts through an October morning, crisp and clear, the sun painting gold streaks across glass towers, a city waking to a new fight. Inside Voss Innovations headquarters, the conference room pulses with raw energy. No more sterile silence, just the hum of voices, the shuffle of boots, a spark of something alive. Caleb Dixon stands at the head of the table, not in his old, damp jacket, but a navy suit, sharp and tailored, though it still feels stiff on his frame. His buzz cuts fresh, his eyes burn brighter, but those calloused hands gripping the table's edge tell the real story. He's the same fighter who clawed out of the dirt, now standing tall in a room he's made his own. 30 new hires face him. Warehouse vets, roughnecks like he was, their faces etched with years of grind. Some wear borrowed button-downs, others let tattoos peek from rolled sleeves, but their eyes blaze with the same hunger he's carried for a decade. He takes a breath, voice starting soft, a quiet rumble building to thunder. "I was you, broken, done, 10 years crushed under that warehouse roof. Worked my hands raw, watched my sister's dreams fade, thought I'd lost it all. 3 months ago, I was you. fired, finished, nothing left but a choice. I stood up, helped a stranger in the rain, lost everything I'd built. But that one move, that's why we're here. He pauses, letting it sink in. The room's so quiet you can hear the hum of the city outside. Welcome to Ground Up, he says, voice rising, fierce now, a fire catching. This ain't just a job. It's your shot, our shot. For every one of you who's been stepped on, overlooked, told you're nothing but a grunt. This is your table now. We're building something real, something that says the little guy doesn't just scrape by. He stands up, fights back, and wins big. The room erupts, claps, a few loud hell yeahs, a murmur of raw, ragged hope rippling through. Caleb's lips twitch, a flicker of a grin, but his chest tightens, pride heavy and real, swelling like a tide he can't hold back. Through the glass wall, Mia's in the hall with staff, laughing, actually laughing, her new jacket sharp, a backpack slung over one shoulder. She's 3 weeks into Michigan Tech, tuition wired the day he signed, chasing her engineering dream with a fire that mirrors his own. She spots him, waves, her smile bright as the sun outside, and he nods back. A silent, "We made it, kid," a vow kept after years of breaking for her. He turns back, hands spreading on the table, voice dropping low, fierce. "I've been where you are. 10 years on that floor, hauling more than my share, eating dirt for bosses who didn't see me. 3 months ago, I lost it all. Thought I'd tanked my life, her life. But that one move, that one stand when it was hard, that's what cracked the world open. That's why you're here. We don't just survive, we take it all." Cheers hit again, louder, fists banging the table, a roar of defiance and belief. The camera pulls back, framing him against the skyline. Detroit sprawling beyond the glass, a city of grit and fight, his kingdom now. Down the hall, Margaret Voss watches from a doorway, cane in hand, her white hair catching the light. She doesn't step in, just nods, a small proud tilt of her head, then turns away, her role complete. Abigail's upstairs, running her empire. But this is Caleb's moment, carved from the mud he climbed out of. Later he's on a warehouse floor. New site, boots back on concrete, but he's not hauling now. He's checking layouts, shaking hands pointing out fixes with the same sharp eye that mapped Great Lakes. A woman in a hard hat, mid-40s, face lined from years of grind, grabs his arm as he passes. "Heard what you did," she says, voice rough, eyes steady. "Saved that lady in the rain. Saved me too, giving me this." Caleb grips her shoulder, firm, real. "We're in it together now. Nobody gets left behind." Back at headquarters, he steps to the window, the city glowing gold as the sun dips low. His reflection stares back. Still Caleb Dixon, still the guy who'd run through a storm for a stranger, but now a force, a name, a promise made flesh. The music swells, rock laced with soul, raw and soaring, and his voiceover hits, thick with heart. "Lost everything to lift one up, found a world for all of us. Stand up, fight back, and it's yours. That's the dawn I'm breaking, the truth I'm living." The screen fades, his silhouette strong, the echo of his words a call to arms. Hit like if you'd stand with Caleb. Subscribe and ring that bell. We've got more stories of grit turning to gold.